Hello and welcome to the University of Scranton's City Council interviews for the May 20th, 2025 primary election. We're joined now by Frankie Malacaria, who is running to be one of the Democratic nominees for Scranton City Council. Thanks for being here, Frankie. First question. This year there will be 3 open seats for Scranton City Council, whose members serve 4-year terms. At the end of a 4-year term, what would you like to say you were able to accomplish for the residents of Scranton?
Sure. Thanks for having me. Thanks for putting this on. There's a lot that I want to accomplish. I'm coming into this with the mindset of bold progressive action. Action for the working class people of this city. I want fruit trees to be planted in parks and wildflowers along the roads. I think that's one of the easiest things that we can see definitely within 4 years. I'd also like the creation of the Scranton Labor Committee, which would be a way of trying to increase unionization efforts for Scranton residents and workers inside the city. I want to expand the Scranton Housing Authority to take a look at abandoned properties from out-of-state landlords, to rent them out and them to become public housing. So it'll increase the city's assets, it'll increase the city's revenues, while at the same time directly competing with private landlords to drive the price of rents down. And also, when these houses are flipped from being abandoned to lived in, the price of the neighbors' homes will go up as well. So I think by taking these types of strategies that will have multiple benefits across many sectors, these types of plans are what I'm bringing to the table in this race.
Thank you. Scranton has seen rising concerns about housing affordability, aging infrastructure, and the availability of quality rental units. What specific policies would you propose to ensure access to safe, affordable housing for both renters and home buyers?
So affordable housing is one of, if not my top priority. I'm originally from Brooklyn, and I know what it's like to be priced out of your home. I moved back to Scranton in 2020 after having not been able to afford increase in rent. At the time, Scranton was super affordable, or a lot more affordable than it is now. I got my first apartment in Scranton in 2011 for $450 a month for a 2-bedroom, and you can't even get a room for that much anymore. So in a relatively short period of time, we've seen explosive growth in the rent prices. I jumped the gun earlier, and I already mentioned my idea of expanding the Scranton Housing Authority to increase public housing. Cities like Vienna, probably has the best public housing infrastructure in the world. Somewhere between 50 and 60% of their municipal housing stock is owned by the city government in one way or another. There's also a private-public partnership that they engage in. So this isn't, a new idea. This isn't, something that I thought of one night. This is policy that works around the world, and it's something that we need to bring to our city.
Recently, the federal government has taken efforts to drastically downsize and eliminate certain agencies and programs, some of which are likely to affect the city's own policies and programs. How do you plan to address these potential changes in funding and support?
Yeah, so this is probably the toughest question that we're facing as a city right now. With the federal government basically, going rogue, cutting budgets that have been allocated by Congress, and deciding what isn't and isn't waste, fraud, and abuse. I think that we as a city can mitigate some of these impacts by increasing our own revenues. We are finally out of Act 47. So we're able to, we have a bond rating for the first time in decades. I think that we should be careful with borrowing. Just because we have a bond rating doesn't mean we should necessarily be using these credit lines. But if it's in the best interest of, increasing our assets, I think that is something that we should look into. But revenue generating ventures, such as increasing public housing, will allow us to have more assets would allow our bond rating to increase, which would allow lower interest rates so that we would be able to spend a little bit more without having to spend too much more in order to cover the interest on the additional spending that we would have to make up from the cuts in the federal government.
Thank you. Over the past several years, Scranton residents have expressed concerns about the rising cost of utilities. This includes this year's UGI proposed rate increase ranging from 7.5% to 11% for natural gas customers. As a member of City Council, how would you address residents' concerns about rising utility costs?
So this hits directly home. My family is on LIHEAP, which is a low-income heating energy assistance program, funded by the federal government through the Department of Health and Human Services, which was recently cut. The entire staff was cut. Next year, we don't know how 300,000 Pennsylvanians are going to be able to afford to heat their homes. This is something that I was directly impacted on and started organizing around as a community organizer. I went to City Hall and demanded that our council do more than just put out a letter. I was at the Public Utility Commission's meeting that they held in Wilkes-Barre earlier this month, along with the mayor and Jerry Smurl from council, and several other, we packed the room. To speak on behalf of this, it's an 11%, 10.8% rate hike to residential customers, and this is just on the distribution end. So this is just what UGI is charging to move the gas from the suppliers to your home. They're claiming that it's needed for infrastructure, yet their revenues are going through the roof. They're making more money than ever. Their executives are seeing more money than ever. So this is just, classic greed. I have been fighting against the UGI rate increases, and I will continue to fight against rate increases because they disproportionately affect working class and poor people in our city. So I will do everything that I can, within my power now and in the future, whatever, however the cards fall for the election, to continue fighting against this.
Thank you. As Scranton continues to grow and change, zoning policies play a key role in shaping the city's future. How would you approach updating the city's zoning code to support goals like economic development, housing availability, and neighborhood character, while ensuring that community voices are part of that process?
So the city recently redid their zoning codes. I think that is definitely a step in the right direction. There's a few general philosophies that we should be following. One of them is transit-oriented development. We need to increase public transportation, and how we're doing this, we need to look into the development of our city. We need to look at destinations and homes, basically, set points and destinations, and have effective public transportation that goes between these 2 points. Or these series of points, rather. We need to be able to increase density, especially downtown. Our city used to house 200,000 people, and now we're down to 76,000. We can see that there are plenty of vacant lots throughout our city. And not all of this needs to be necessarily zoned for housing. I think that if we increase density, we can use a lot of these empty plots to also zone for community gardens and other types of, more recreational activities that will also bring a sense of community to folks, and not only, you said to keep the sense of the neighborhood, but I want to enhance the sense of the neighborhood with projects like this.
Thank you. Much of Scranton's infrastructure, from roads and sidewalks to water and sewer systems, is aging and in need of repair. Given budget constraints and competing priorities, how would you identify and fund the most urgent infrastructure needs while ensuring long-term resilience and access across neighborhoods?
So this is something that, I would definitely need to look into a little bit more to see specifically, if we're going to be prioritizing stuff, I need the whole breadth of everything that's happening in our city. And, as a community organizer, I have a good idea of what some of these issues are, but, I don't have the full bird's eye view. With that said, the BRIC grant that FEMA was distributing, which the Trump administration has cut, is definitely a priority that the city needs to start looking into. This is, if anyone doesn't know, in Northside and I think Kaiser Valley, there were floods a couple of years ago, and FEMA was going to be providing funding in order to fix the stormwater drains. So, yeah, our infrastructure is aging, but unfortunately, a lot of this infrastructure is no longer owned by the city. These are no longer our assets. They have been sold off to the highest bidder, to private corporations and private hands. So our water supply is no longer ours. It's American Waters. Our, gas utilities, our gas pipes are no longer ours. They're UGI's. I think that we are paying a premium by having these assets in private hands, and we should be doing everything in our power to try to claw back our assets for our community so that we don't have to be paying a premium on top of what it costs to distribute these services.
Thank you. Finally, and what time is remaining, what else would you like voters to keep in mind when they head to the polls on Tuesday, May 20th?
Not every Democrat in this race is the same. I implore you to look at everyone that is running and to make your best educated decision on what would be the best for our city. I plan to bring bold, progressive action that is in benefit of the poor and working class of the city. Nearly 30% of the city is under the poverty line. We can do better, and we should do better. We deserve more, not more of the same. I'm against political dynasties, whether they're in the federal, state, or local level. And I jumped into this race with 4 years as a political and community organizer because I didn't like who I was able to vote for. I was hoping that one of my friends would be able to run and I would be able to assist them, but they weren't able to do it for health and employment reasons. So in some ways, I felt obligated to throw my hat in the ring as someone that knows how to run a campaign and reach out to community members and figure out what the issues are in their community and take action, importantly, on trying to keep all of us safe. Look into, me and the rest of the candidates. You can find more about me on my website, along with my policy page at Scranton.com. Please remember to vote on May 20th, ballot line 4 for the Democratic candidates for Scranton City Council. Thank you. I hope that I earned your vote.
Thank you, Frankie. Again, Frankie Malacaria is running to be one of the Democratic nominees for Scranton City Council. Please remember to vote on Tuesday, May 20th.